starting another reaction video on Thursday, the 12th day of September in 2024 at 5:25 p.m. Along with welcoming you to my channel, allow me to thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe before sharing this video and turning on the post notification bell. It would be much appreciated. Here we go. Now my search bar has disappeared, so I have to go to I don't know how to search now. Wait a minute. I'll figure out how to search. We're going to go to youtube.com. Let's go to Windows key X. And it should say search up here somewhere. No search. Oh, here's search right here. It should give me the option to search. And I'll go to youtube.com. Andre. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. I'd love to watch another Jen Moresi video. She's got 1,000 of them, or a ton of them. We haven't seen all of them. We've seen several Jen Moresi videos, but we haven't seen all of them by a long shot. YouTube is thinking. It's buffering. It's taking a while to load. Load like a toad. It's loading like a toad. Nope. Something's going on. Here we go. Then what do I do to? Let's go to Jen Moresi. Type in J. Jen Moresi will pop up. I'm sure. On the screen, not in real life. Jen Moresi. Search for Jen Moresi. Search. There she is. Here, I'll click on her and that should give us her playlist. There she is. Let's see. Where's her playlist? I don't want to write in sprint video. Those are very exciting. I like her writing advice videos. Oh. Here's some writing tips from Jen Moresi. Looks like. Is there a playlist? Here's 10 worst tropes in fantasy. Fantasy genre fiction. Alright, let's watch this. There she is. I asked you in advance to excuse all my sniffling and my clearing of the throat throughout this video, as I anticipate I will be. I have some sinuses going on. Here we go. Skip this. Hello, everybody.
Hello everybody! I am so sorry for missing last week. If you follow me on social media, then you already know I was at the doctor's office.
I know we watched this before. I remember saying I apologize for being out last week. But I don't remember it, so maybe you don't watch it anyways. No, let's find something. Then where's Strokes and Chicks? I know for sure I watched this. Oh, man. Interesting. Let's go with best tropes. Best tropes. I gotta put my headphones on. Give me a minute. Well, it shouldn't take a minute. Oh. Meanwhile, you can listen to this.
Sorry, I say, and she freezes staring at me. For a moment, I wonder if she thinks she's in my phone as something like Gothy Chick from Gateway. Earlier in the story, she sees that Antari has her in her phone as something like girl with Dreamcatcher tat, so that's what that's referencing. She doesn't say anything, and I push on. You can back out in the yard. I'm not sure if that's what I meant to say. Hand still on the door, she nods. We both shiver when she opens it and steps outside. I reach to shut the door, but suddenly she's back in it, leaning over the threshold to press thin lips against my cheek. Night, she says, eyes not quite meeting mine. This random detail of her lips being thin, that's just like, it's not quite comfy. If you work these itty-bitty details into the scene, it's so much subtler and more effective than if you just had a sex scene and then stated that she was uncomfortable. Night, I watch her jog to her car, holding her coat closed tightly until she's inside. I shut the door. She's never kissed me goodbye before. I trail down the hallway into the spotless kitchen she never made it to, and then the tidy living room. The scene before this, Antari texted her that she was coming over, and she ran through her whole house cleaning everything, and then she didn't even look at it, which is, again, a great metaphor. This is just a really good story. Chris, can you please finish writing it? Thank you. Tip 4, pay attention to tone. Sex scenes can mean a ton of different things for different characters because people have so many reasons for doing it. It's like we talked about with argument scenes. Maybe they're...
That really was a well-written sex scene. It wasn't erotica, so it wasn't supposed to make you feel something. I guess, unless a woman did. I didn't feel anything about it. Of course, I'm not a gay woman. But, my buddy Brandon writes erotica. And he's like the Stephen King of erotica. He's read a couple of his short erotica stories. He likes to write short erotica stories. And they're amazing. And he makes you feel something. I imagine a girl would get turned on. I was not turned on per se. I was ready to jerk off, but I felt what the fella in the story felt. He was into some fetish that I wasn't into, but listening to how he felt about it made me think, I wish I had that fetish. I wish someone would do that to me. Because he wrote how enjoyable it was. He wrote in detail what they did and how enjoyable it was for him and what he got off on. Brandon's just a great erotica writer. I wish I could write regular stories, and he writes erotica. I don't know how his prose is erotica is, but his dialogue is very well written. Let's see what else he has to say about this sex stuff.
They're fighting about one thing, but they're actually fighting about something else. So why are your characters having sex? Are they in love? Is it for fun? Is it for validation? Are they trying to have a baby? Are they trying to get revenge on somebody? Are they, like the MC and Chris's story, just looking for acceptance and love? This is true for any piece of writing, but you can write 2 sex scenes where the same thing happens and they have completely different meanings. You swap the tone, you use different vernacular, you see it from a different character's point of view, and that can completely change what the scene means. So what is each character in it for? And how can we convey that through the lens of whichever character we're seeing it through, with the vernacular, with the tone, and what details we decide to include and exclude? Sex can be really nice or it can be really gross. It's usually both. But which one is your character deciding to focus on? And what does that teach us about that character and about that character dynamic? Tip 5. Don't focus on the play-by-play. I see a lot of writers doing it. They're describing where every limb is at all times. It's very technical and not very sexy. To quote the erotica author Anais Nin, you might know her from her collection of short stories. It's called Little Birds. I don't want to talk about it. But she said, sex loses all its power and magic when it becomes explicit, mechanical, overdone. When it becomes a mechanistic obsession, it becomes a bore. So what do we write if we're not writing the technicalities of what and where everything is? Focus on the details that matter. Connect what's happening physically with what's happening emotionally in your character. You can do a lot more with a focused, meaningful detail than you can do with 2 pages of general description. So what Chris does here, by this time she's looking at me, hooded eyes following the line of her stomach down to where I am, teeth, tongue, and hunched shoulders pressed to the backs of her thighs. Not only is that really beautiful prose, but the way they phrased that, I am teeth, tongue, and hunched shoulders, we know what's going on. So we get enough actual description to picture it, but that phrasing of I am these things, the character is minimizing herself to what she is to Antari, which is an object. It's the
I like that too. That's just good writing. I'm not that good. I love to write, and I do write. I think I can tell a good story, and I think I tell them well, but my prose is not that good. It's not that good. I think it's not that good. I think it's not that good. My dialogue would probably slaughter his or hers. I have a lot of confidence in my dialogue, but my prose is not as good as his or hers. I know that for sure.
physical parts of her that are useful to Antari. It's subtle, but it's really well done and says a lot about that dynamic. And tip 6, the thing everyone wants to know about, what words do we use? Do we say penis? Do we say throbbing member? Do we say deep into her womanhood? Please don't do that. It's up to you. Whatever suits your style of writing the best. Some readers are going to hate it no matter what you do, so write to your own preference, and whatever you choose to do it as well as you can. Let's look at another scene. This one is from my patron, Brian. Morgan escaped the crowd of folks around him and made his way to the bar. Seeing Dr. Madison approach him made him smile. Well, I hoped I would get the chance to meet you tonight, Doctor. My name is Morgan Keating. Valerie smiled as she extended her hand to the man. Please call me Valerie. This should be Dr. Madison, right? She didn't say call her Valerie yet. Should I edit this? I don't think I'm going to edit them. Please call me Valerie. No need to be formal while we're enjoying drinks, is there? Morgan smirked. Not at all. Please call me Morgan. I was about to order another bourbon. Do you need anything? No, I am fine, she said as she sipped her vodka tonic, laughing. You are quite a popular man, Morgan. I could not help but notice you were intensely staring at me. Was there something you wished to say? She flirted. A calm Morgan smiled as he sipped his bourbon. Why, yes, I did. I wanted to take you upstairs and explore your mind and body for the rest of the evening, but I didn't know if you would call me tomorrow. Why don't we worry about tomorrow when it gets here? She slyly shot back. Finishing his drink, he took her by the hand and made their way to the elevator. Stepping in, he pushed the button to take them to the penthouse. You know, I hope you don't think. Her words were cut off as Morgan pushed her back against the wall quickly, his lips attacking hers as he thrust her hands above her head, pinning them against the wall. His tongue invaded mouth as she moaned into him. This is very assaulty. Like, not only his actions, but our verbiage. Pushed, attacking, thrust, invaded, pinning. Like, clearly
Nothing says sexy like rape. Huh?
She's into it, so it's not assault, but it's... He broke the kiss and sank his mouth into her neck, and worked up towards her left ear. As he reached her ear, he whispered, I hope you don't have plans early tomorrow. I plan to devour every inch of your body. When you think you cannot go anymore and you beg me to stop, I'm gonna keep going. He kissed her again before he suddenly pulled away. The elevator stopped and the door opened. An older man got on.
Again, nothing says sexy like rape. When you beg me to stop, I'm gonna keep going. When you ask me to quit hitting you, I'm gonna keep going. I don't like that line. When you beg me to stop, I'm gonna keep going. No, yeah. So much for safety words, huh?
On the elevator and was going a few floors up.
I guess they're called safe words, not safety words. Safe words.
Morgan smirked at Valerie as they stood in silence. This is a scene in 50 Shades of Grey, isn't it? Brian, is this a fanfiction of a fanfiction? Stepping in the door of the penthouse, Morgan closed and locked it as he pushed Valerie against the wall. He continued kissing her as his hands began exploring her body. This is stuff that we talk about in my prose videos, but continued, began. Those kinds of kickstart words aren't really necessary. He pulled his tie off as his jacket had already hit the floor. Morgan pulled up her dress over her head and smiled with approval to the red panties and bra underneath.
Sweet.
She unbuttoned his shirt and ran her hands along his strong chest. He's a big man. Morgan picked her up and carried her into the lavish living room. We could probably get some better description of the living room. I assume this is a rich man because he's Christian Grey. As he continued his journey of her body on the couch. That's not very specific. Kissing her, Morgan's hands worked to unhook her bra. The phrasing of that makes it sound like Morgan's hands are kissing her, which would be fine. Her perky white breasts were quickly engulfed by his mouth. Oh, word choice. So, like, yeah, think about the con.
I said more. What's that?
context and the implications of your words, but also think about the sound. Engulfed isn't really a sound you want in a sex scene. Engulfed by his mouth. Her pink nips were already hard from the elevator. Elevators get me like that too sometimes. Morgan grinned as he heard her moan to his touch. He picked up her right leg and began kissing up it. Huh. He alternated kisses with bites as he worked closer to the red panties she still wore. She tried to push them off, but Morgan stopped her. No, you won't take them off until I tell you to. She bit her bottom lip at the command. So it's fine to have like an aggressive sex scene. She's clearly
That's a fanfic of 50 Shades of Grey. That's a little embarrassing.
into it, but I think we could do it differently. Morgan reached her panties and saw the dampness beginning to Did she piss herself? He brushed his tongue along the outside of her panties, tracing her core. Reaching up with his left hand, he squeezed her right nipple between his fingers, rotating his thumb while taking his other hand and sliding a finger in. I'm a very reactive person. This isn't how you should be reacting in a sex scene. Morgan's fingers invaded her as he pulled her panties to the side. His tongue traced her folds. This is one of the most cliche phrases in erotica you will ever read, so we can do something different there. He moved slow and steady initially. His strong black hands pumped in and out of her as he lapped up her juices. Okay, we got layers here. I'm trying to articulate what the problem with this is. I'm not.
I know him kidding. She's not a problem with that. This chick's fucking black man. So her reaction is for a different reason. Let's see what it is.
Not a sensitivity reader, but I try to be aware of what you do and you don't do. Someone's not going to describe their hands as strong black hands because that's not a description. Black people don't have black hands. It's like brown and then it's like, you know, this color. So putting black here, I don't want to say it's fetishization, but it's adjacent because it's not an actual description. It's like, this is a strong black man's hands, specifically in a sexual context. I'm going to do another video and we're going to like interview a sensitivity reader and figure that out. So let's move on. Lapping up her juices. Valerie's hands ran over Morgan's head as his tongue continued its assault on her swollen clit. Oh baby, she moaned. The look of satisfaction on his face said everything. What perspective are we in? I thought we were in his. His tongue darted in and out at a rapid pace now. His hands massaged her folds as...
His tongue darted in and out. They're gonna have the pussy hole with his tongue. That's a little nasty. I don't do that. If you like that girl, you don't want to get with me, because I just mainly focus on the clit. This is sucking and nibbling.
Both hands? How are they fitting in there? His strong black hands, they sound big. His hands massaged her folds as the sound of her moans increased his speed. As her body shook, his mouth encircled her and took every drop she released. A look of satisfaction overtook his face as he stood up. That is just the beginning. We have this satisfied look on his face and this satisfied look on his face. Anyway, okay, moving on. A lot of the verbiage in that one was a little iffy for me. Like assaulted. That's just not great. This doesn't seem like a scene where we're supposed to feel uncomfortable. I think it's supposed to be a kind of dominant, sexy thing, which sure, big market for that. However, I don't feel like this scene really accomplishes what it set out to do. If you compare the details in this scene to the details in Chris's scene, like we don't need to know that he uses his right hand on her left nipple. That does nothing for us. While Chris's detail of fingertips dig into my hips and legs, then between them. That use of the verb dig does a lot. The pace of it does a lot. It's quick, it's rough. So even if we're not talking about the words we use for explicit bits, word choice does a lot. And words like assault, invaded, darted aren't really conveying power to me. They're kind of conveying assault or an invasion if you will. Other words that kind of gross me out. Engulfed, rotating, the lapping of juices. I've certainly read worse scenes than this, and like we have the structure there, like all of the same stuff could happen. The actual beats of that scene are absolutely fine. We just need to describe them a little differently. So other than the word choice and those technicalities, this scene kind of lacks humanity to me. You don't need every sex scene to be emotionally impactful, especially in erotica, because sex isn't always emotionally impactful. In Chris's scene, one of the characters doesn't even care about the other at all. And maybe the MC doesn't necessarily care about Antari either, but she cares about the lack of connection, and she feels gross about being used. That's an emotion. So emotionally impactful doesn't necessarily mean that there's a big connection between your characters. It means there's a connection between the character and the reader. Tip 7, you should know more than your characters. Earlier I mentioned knowing what sex is, and yes, you should know what sex is if you're writing a sex scene, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your character knows everything that you know. Maybe it's their first time, or maybe they've just never bothered to learn about their partner's anatomy. That can all be characterizing. So think about maybe your character is a little ignorant, and that can work for the story, but you yourself should not be ignorant. And for tip 8, I'm talking about assault, so if you'd like to skip that, go to this timestamp. Tip 8. Know what consent is. I actually tried to make this video a few months ago, and I asked my patients to send in their sex scenes, and most of them were not sex, they were assault, and some of them were aware, and they were intentionally assault scenes, which is another thing, but some of them were supposed to be romantic. 911, if your sex scene is not consensual, it's not a sex scene, it's an assault scene. And if you're writing an assault scene intentionally, do it well, and do it tactfully, and do it for a reason. I don't like making blanket statements about writing because it's a big gray area and everything is super subjective, but I will say for me, in my experience, reading very many manuscripts from amateur writers, if you're a cishet man writing from the perspective of a woman being assaulted, I'm throwing up. There are so many other things to write about. Of course, men can be assaulted too. Women can be assaulters. That's a different scene. It's not what I'm talking about. But this happens so often where a cishet man will write from the perspective of a female character being assaulted, and shockingly often, she's reflecting on how it's not so bad, or how maybe she deserved it, or how she's enjoying it. If I had been in the room with these writers when I read their manuscripts, I would have beat the shit out of them, and maybe they would have enjoyed it. Stop it. Get some help. If you have a scene like this in your story, maybe you think it's cool shock value, maybe you think you need to break your character in some kind of way, maybe a girl rejected you once and now you're gonna shoot up a school. I'm telling you, as your friendly neighborhood writing coach, that ain't it. Figure something else out. If you're mad about me saying this, go to therapy. That's all. Let's look at one more scene from my patron Betty. "Not tonight, darling," she murmured sleepily. "That's okay, my love," he replied. "Sweet dreams." He kissed her cheek and rolled onto his back. He gave a yawn and snuggled up under his blankets. He reached out to turn off the light and drifted peacefully off to sleep. Flawless. Fantastically executed. Betty is a member of the street team for my upcoming book, Starlight. She's hilarious and a light into my life. I recommend following her on Instagram at pipsqueakphotog, one of my...
I don't get it. That's not a sex scene. What's the point? That's how old people fuck nowadays. They just roll over and go to sleep. I guess. I don't know.
My favorite accounts where she takes great pictures of doggies. 10 out of 10. That's all I've got for you today. Hope it was helpful. Thank you to my patrons for sponsoring this video, because YouTube sure won't. Speaking of Starlight, I'm having a live stream event on the 19th of this month at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're going to do a cover reveal, we're going to play games, we're going to do a bunch of dumb shit, and it will launch the pre-sale of my book. And there will be prizes and giveaways, and it's going to be fun. So subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll get an alert when I go live. See you next week. Bye.